Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go. My name is Hunter. We are tracking the coldest temperatures and wind chills of the winter season this week. We're looking at a major winter storm bringing heavy snow, ice, and some more heavy rain with severe weather as well. And we're looking at the long range pattern as we go into next week with a warming trend. But also, yes, winter's not over. We have more winter storms likely as we go into March. We'll hash out everything that you need to know in this forecast. Hey, if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel, follow along with all my detailed, accurate weather breakdowns. I am just a few hundred people away from 128,000 subscribers, and you want to help me get there, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, especially if you do find it informative and you do enjoy it, give it a thumbs up, and share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I truly do appreciate it. Let's get in and talk about our temperatures this evening. These are your temperature anomalies, and notice the bright pink. That's as cold as the map does get, and that means our temperature anomalies are 40 to even 50 degrees below normal of what we should see for the February 18th time frame. Here are your temperatures as we start your Wednesday, February 19th, tomorrow morning. Probably more school delays and or cancellations across the north central U.S. due to the cold air. Here are your air temperatures. Look at the Dakotas. A lot of North Dakota, South Dakota, over here in Minnesota, even parts of Nebraska going to be seeing those double-digit below zero temperatures, say 10, 20, even 30 degrees below zero here for tomorrow morning. And that doesn't even factor in the wind. The wind chills across these areas of the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota will be in easily 20 to as much as 45, perhaps even 50 degrees below zero. And these sub-zero wind chills go all the way down to central Texas here into Arkansas and western portions of Tennessee. So it's not just going to be confined to the north. We're going to see sub-zero wind chills all the way down to the south, even into the Lone Star State of Texas. Tomorrow afternoon, we do warm up, but it is a modest warm up. We're still seeing temperatures around the 0-degree mark here all across the north central U.S., only into the single digits and teens for highs into the Sooner State of Oklahoma over here into Arkansas. So very cold tomorrow, and our wind chills tomorrow afternoon will be very cold as well. Notice here as we go into the afternoon, our wind chills around 15 to as much as 25 degrees below zero, so across the north central U.S. So make sure to bundle up, make sure to cover up with multiple layers over, to cover up the skin out there, because if you have exposed skin, frostbite can occur in less than 20 minutes time in these types of wind chills, even during the day. Now across the west, coldest areas are up here into Montana, Wyoming, into Colorado. That's where we're going to be seeing sub-zero low temperatures tomorrow morning. Wind chills at this point, especially up there into northeast Montana, will be around 40 degrees or so below zero. Make sure to cover up exposed skin there. Tomorrow afternoon, wind chills and temperatures will be around 0 degrees, wind chills below zero here tomorrow afternoon across portions of Montana. And you do notice as we go into the afternoon, wind chills still around 15 degrees below zero. Across the eastern U.S., the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, Great Lakes region, we're going to be seeing widespread single digits to even a few handful of degrees below zero with our air temperature tomorrow morning. Wind chills here, especially up across the Ohio Valley near the Great Lakes, especially Lake Erie up here, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron. We're going to be seeing temperatures with our wind chills at least 20 to 25 degrees below zero. And as we go into the afternoon, we're going to improve those temperatures just a little bit. We're going to be still seeing those teens to 20s for highs all across the northeast U.S. Still pretty chilly down here in the southeast. Carolinas struggling to reach 40 degrees in a lot of these areas. Georgia, Alabama into the 40s. And then you got to go all the way down to south central Florida to even get 70s and 80s tomorrow afternoon. Let's look at our major winter storm. This continues to bring some snowfall and some freezing rain, sleet, even some heavier rain with severe weather on the warm side. In the blue, that's where we're seeing some heavier snow this evening, currently across portions of Missouri, downstate Illinois, down into southern Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, especially middle and western Tennessee, getting into northern Arkansas, and snow is exiting from Kansas and Oklahoma as we speak. Very interesting evening commute here for Little Rock as we have a mixture of snow and freezing rain and sleet here. And then we have heavy rain down from Houston, Galveston over to Lake Charles and New Orleans with some severe weather embedded in that this evening. Now, as we go into the overnight hours, we're going to see that continue to shift off to the east. Music City of Nashville seeing some moderate snow showers overnight. That'll continue up into Kentucky. Areas that saw some devastating flash flooding a few days ago, going to see some accumulating snow into Lexington, Bowling Green over to Pikeville here in eastern Kentucky. Even Charleston, West Virginia, seeing some heavier snows as well. Then as we go into your Wednesday morning commute, the dry Arctic air from the north going to kind of shred apart some of the snow, at least the snow shield on the northern side of the system. So it's going to be kind of across more of the Appalachian, Smoky Mountain vicinity down in the Cumberland Plateau of eastern Tennessee, where we see the heavier snows. Otherwise, heavy rain ongoing across the Gulf Coast here from New Orleans to Mobile to Tallahassee there, as far east as Jacksonville and Panama City. A lot of areas seeing some heavier rain, and as we go through the day on Wednesday, precipitation will continue to shift off to the east, but that dry Arctic air eating away at some of that precip, especially across Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina, where we could have the more wintry precipitation throughout the day there on Wednesday. Heavier rain and storms further off to the south. Let's break this down for you. Here's the additional snowfall accumulations we do expect going through your Thursday anyway. We're going to be seeing still double-digit snows across southern Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky there into northern tier counties of Arkansas. So from Branson, Missouri over there towards Carbondale, Illinois, Paducah, Kentucky, and maybe even the far northern tier of, again, Arkansas there, maybe near Jonesboro, maybe just northwest of Jonesboro, seeing 6 to 12 inches of additional snowfall. We look at the eastern view, much of Tennessee here, looking at around 1 to 3, if not an isolated 4-inch total, especially there toward Memphis and Clarksville, Jackson, Tennessee. Up here into Kentucky, central Kentucky, so from Bowling Green over toward Lexington, we're going to be looking at around 2 to 4 inches of snow. Pikeville, Kentucky, and eastern Kentucky there, around 6 to 7 inches. Charleston, West Virginia could get a little bit of an enhancement. We could see around 6 to 8 inches of snow there, and then over into Virginia and northern North Carolina, where we see a little bit of the drier air coming in. Snowfall totals are going to come down a bit, but still seeing around 1 to 3, maybe an isolated 4-inch totals there. Now, as far as the icing concerns go, we do have the potential for a light glaze of ice to upwards to 0.2 of an inch of ice, and that, as you know, doesn't take much ice to cause problems on the roadways, and that definitely could be the case here across Arkansas, especially around Little Rock during the evening commute here this evening. And then going here through portions of eastern North Carolina upwards to a quarter, even half an inch of ice locally in some of these areas east of Raleigh. So something to keep in mind there. Some isolated to scattered power outages may result if we get enough ice accretion on the power lines. On the warm side, we are looking at a light severe weather threat, not as big of a severe weather threat as we saw just a few days ago with an outbreak across Dixie Alley, but we still do see enough ingredients coming together for some 60-mile-an-hour winds, some quarter-size hail, and a brief tornado threat from southeast Texas, Houston, and Galveston into coastal parishes there of Louisiana, so from Lake Charles over there toward portions of New Orleans, some stronger thunderstorms this evening. Looking here at the radar this evening, got some heavier thunderstorms, some embedded severe weather in here that we just mentioned could be the case too. Lake Charles, Houston, Galveston over toward New Orleans. As we go through the overnight hours, that will have a tendency to push eastward. The heaviest of the precip may actually be just off the immediate shoreline of the Gulf Coast here, so just south of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, but we'll still see some heavier thunderstorms moving across the Gulf Coast even into your Wednesday morning, and then that'll cross through southern Georgia, northern Florida as we go in through the day Wednesday there, and that could lead to some flash flooding in some isolated areas, as we do see some rainfall totals here around 1 to 3 inches. That could cause some ponding of water on the roadways, something to keep in mind if you're heading out to work or school as we go into the day on Wednesday. Let's look at the polar vortex and its placement as we go into the weekend. Here's Friday, February 21st, and notice it's still around. It's still in northeastern Canada, and we're seeing that cross-polar flow from the north pushing that colder air into the United States. But watch as we go into the weekend. Starts to retreat north as we go into Saturday, February 22nd, and then Sunday, February 23rd. Gets a little bit further north, but it's still stretching, so we're still going to have some colder air to contend with in the eastern U.S., and that you can very see on this map across the central eastern U.S. While it's not as cold as what we're seeing this evening or the midweek, we're still seeing some colder air out there across these areas in the east. So it's still going to be kind of chilly as we go into the weekend. So make sure to bundle up there in the east. Warming up, at least moderating our temperatures in the west, especially western Canada, as we have a big ridge of high pressure that is dominating the northeast Pacific that will kind of trudge eastward as we go into the weekend. And looking at that with a high pressure system, not going to see a lot of precip in the desert southwest. So bone dry out here. We are going to set up some northwest flow, and we could be getting a little bit of some clipper systems from Canada into the Great Lakes and the Northeast, and have enough cold air aloft where we could see some snow showers, making it from the cloud all the way down to the ground here, and that could lead to some snow accumulation as we go into the weekend. Now let's look here at the upper level pattern, but let's zoom this out to the global view here and look at the pattern that we see this week. We have the polar vortex right in our backyard. It's in eastern Canada, and it's providing cross-polar flow from the north all the way down to the lower 48, especially the central and eastern U.S. this week. And that is creating our colder temperatures that we see the remainder of this week. You can see a lot of the blues here, the pinks, the purples. Colder temperatures will continue to dominate with the polar vortex really right in our backyard there in eastern Canada. Now, as we go into next week, watch as we see that here. Over in Asia, it's warm this week, cold here in North America. Watch as we go into next week. We can see that big 180 in the weather pattern as we start to warm up in North America and we cool down in Asia. So a complete flip-flop, a 180 in the weather pattern, and that means we're going to see milder air that we see in Asia this week making its way into North America, while Asia gets colder as we go into next week. A complete 180 here, and so any cold weather lovers, we're going to have to go into the east, the far east, to see any colder weather, or even up further north into Canada. Otherwise, we're going to see a warmer weather pattern, and it's not going to be summertime weather. Okay, we're not going to see 70, 80 degrees in Chicago, but it's going to feel like it probably, to be honest with you, after this cold spell. So looking here at the jet stream, we're going to see a northwest to southeast oriented jet stream. We got the high pressure over here anchored in the desert southwest, keeping us bone dry next week, but we're still going to see some precip events that are going to evolve in Canada and then slide down here this jet stream from northwest to southeast into the eastern U.S. next week. It is going to be dry, though, in the deep south and up toward Kentucky. We need the dry air, saturated soil. It's going to be nice to see some drier conditions to help get the recovery efforts going from the flooding events we saw these past few days. Now let's look here at the European model. It's not completely dry. There's still some precip here across the Great Lakes in the north. We have some rain and or snow showers. We are monitoring some agreement here on the models, though, by later in the week, Thursday the 27th, Friday the 28th of February to end the month, of maybe a snowstorm from the Ohio Valley into the eastern Great Lakes and perhaps even into the northeast here. And you can see that is confirmed on the GFS model. You see a couple of precipitation events later in next week, but the bigger system comes in potentially that Thursday the 27th, Friday the 28th time frame of February, and that could bring a winter storm with high confidence here across Ohio Valley, the eastern Great Lakes, and the northeast, northwest of the I-95 corridor. So here is the European model as far as precipitation is concerned. This is both for rain and or snow. Notice the high confidence here across the Ohio Valley, northeast, and into the Great Lakes, on up there into Quebec of Canada. The GFS model, not that dissimilar. We actually do see a lot of precip in the Ohio Valley, eastern Great Lakes, the northeast, and into Quebec, Canada. That is creating a lot of moisture there, so we have high confidence of that. Looking at the European model, we actually do have some decent snow. Now, again, it does show heavy snow in Chicago. This will change 1.5 million times before we get to later next week, but the trends are showing potentially Great Lakes snow into parts of at least the northern Ohio Valley and parts of the interior part of the northeast, and it looks like some big snow events potentially on the European model for southern Ontario and into Quebec, Canada later next week, and it is confirmed on the GFS model. Notice the GFS, though, doesn't bring as much snow to Chicago. So the takeaway from this, high confidence in a bigger storm system later next week, 26th through the 28th time frame of February. This could bring some heftier rain and or snow to portions of the Ohio Valley, parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes, the Northeast, and especially southeastern Canada. Now, turning into the early March outlook, this is to be taken with a grain of salt because we are still around a week and or 2 weeks out from this, but this is a trend, and we're noticing some cooler air across the central and eastern U.S. Now, it's not going to be as cold as what we see this week, but we are seeing higher confidence and colder air sticking around a little bit into early March because we have another ridge of high pressure, a blocking pattern up there developing toward the Aleutian Islands and Alaska, and that will force warmer air into Alaska. So if it's warmer in Alaska, what goes up must come down, and we have a little bit of colder air starting out here in the west and kind of progressing further east. So I think the lower 48, for the most part outside of the plains, will remain colder as we go into the first week of March, and with an active weather pattern, you see some green on here, that could give us the chance for more snow, especially the further north you get, because the sun angle in March, as you know, is higher, so it gets a little warmer faster down across the south. That may push the snow line a little bit further north with these events toward the northern plains, upper Midwest, and yes, these are areas that haven't seen a lot of snow this winter. We could be seeing more bullish snowstorms across portions of the northeast and southeastern Canada. What I mean by bullish is several inches of snow. We could be seeing several inches of snow here, over 6-inch snow events still on the table in these areas as we go into the first week of March there, and obviously some on the warmer side of these storms, heavier rain and severe weather outbreaks to be watched for Dixie Alley along the Gulf Coast and toward the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast as we go through the first week of March. Thank you for watching. I know that was a lot of information to get to. Hopefully you did find it informative, and if you did, give it a thumbs up, a like down below. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media. A few hundred more subscribers, and I'll be at 128,000, so make sure if you have not subscribed to my channel, make sure to subscribe. We'll keep you covered on the weather here. If you do have a comment, question, or concern, drop it in the comment section down below. I will answer any and all questions related to the weather here on this forecast. So thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful and safe rest of your Tuesday out there.